you want to run the website. Cool?
Sorry.
Yep.
That bit where you did the restore that for the NuGet packages.
Yes?
So this is like you're doing it in multiple steps. But
Yes.
does it download those NuGet packages every time you run build against that Docker file?
No. It runs, if this build happens on this machine, the first time around it downloads it.
Yeah.
The second time around, it won't download it from the internet, it'll download it from the cached folder.
Okay. In that little container.
In the previous layers container, yes. Yeah.
And then say now you add new dependencies. So you need new, it will need new
Yes.
NuGet packages. Does it know now that you've added something?
Yes.
So it will go get them again.
Yes. That's known as cache busting. So what happens is the moment you've changed something on a layer that's being referenced, that whole layer needs to be re-execute. The CLI knows about it, it does a hash diff on that layer, and then it knows, okay, this is not the same, I'm going to execute this command again, and then it'll
And
go get
that's
this stuff.
because of this multi-stage that we explained results. And that's what makes it different from just the couple lines that from
Yes.
in a standard Docker file that we were showing earlier.
Yeah, so the standard Docker file is, the old way of doing it was you'd have multiple Docker files separately and you'd have some sort of system that can execute these things. So prior to this, you would have, I use TeamCity because I use it a lot. You'd have TeamCity, you'd have step 1, use this Docker file, build it. Step 2, use the same source files but now build it against this one. Step 3, build it against this one. That way you're actually bloating your infrastructure, because now the host now needs to have these NuGet packages, because it needs to reference it back again. This way, it's all happening within the context of the CLI.
So one thing to also note that if you're using VSTS and you're using a hosted build agent, each build that you run is a new VM.
Yes.
So each time you build your Docker file in VSTS, you're building your container in a new VM. So it's going to be pulling the same
Yes.
thing every time. So there's no caching.
There is a property feature in VSTS Online where you can tell it, please cache it. And then what it'll do, it actually saves the containers, the running containers. It caches those images that they output, and then it'll use it for your next build. There's a feature, it's somewhere in the properties, I've actually seen it, I've used the VSTS. There's a property somewhere in the configuration of your build where you tell it use the cache, and it'll actually leverage off the Docker cache. The alternative is not to use their agent, you use your own, and you can use, if you're using VSTS, that means you don't mind it being in the cloud, you can use some dirt cheap providers like DigitalOcean. You just create a little dummy VM, install the agent, which is very easy to do, and just pump it out that way. There's a couple of ways of saving costs there, but you're 100% right. The default setting is not to cache anything, and then because they want you to run out of build time.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why they do that.
If your base image is like, well, the configuration is compressed, but it is quite huge, like 1 gig.
Yeah. Yeah. You also see it often when you work with the Angular applications. Your download times are exorbitant. It's ridiculous. Especially if your project is very large and you've got a lot of dependencies inside your Angular package, you can easily get up to like a 4 gig dependencies folder for node modules. And that takes a long time.
Yeah. Even running it locally as well, if your internet connection doesn't stick in that, you'll be there for hours.
Yeah. So if you do a multi-stage, then and in VSTS you can enable the caching and you do multi-stage, or if you do multi-stage locally, you won't have that time frame. Cool. So that's pretty much that. And if I say Docker run, if all goes well, because I've had awesome demos so far, it'll spin up a container. I'm not specifying any IP addresses, so it'll just pick up any IP address. It'll run the project. It attaches the remote debugger into the container. So you've got to remember that under the hood, because I'm running Windows 10, I'm running Hyper-V, and Hyper-V is technically running next to my host operating system. It's not running in my host operating system, run side by side. So effectively, it's breaking out of my current kernel, going into another kernel, and attaching a debugger there, which is pretty cool. So there's my thing, and you'll notice it has the IP address there. So part of the Microsoft scripts that they give you out the box, without telling you, is the PowerShell interrogates the containers. I'll show you. Docker, whoa, caps lock. Copy S. We'll see our container there, up 3 minutes, which is this one. See that awesome name, Docker Compose, awesome number, underscore, that's Visual Studio doing that. Because they want to control, because they use that name when you say stop debugging, they'll actually stop that container. And then when you say debug again, it'll redeploy and use that same container name. So it becomes a reference point for them. If I say copy and I say that inspect command, that IP address is the same IP address that's in the browser. 233, 233. So that's effectively how they're doing it. They've got the name, they can do the inspect, get the IP address, then attach it to Visual Studio, so when the web request goes to the browser, they can attach it and attach their JavaScript. That's how that's working. Cool, makes sense? Any questions? None. Yep.
So would it be easier to, so what's the point of debugging and then why wouldn't you rather than
Natively. I like that question. So we're not in this utopia world, but if
Sorry,
we,
Leroy,
yo, yes.
can you just repeat the question, please?
Okay, cool. So the question is why debug in a container as opposed to running locally?
Okay.
Okay, cool. So say now, again, it's kind of mute because you got Visual Studio, but say now there's a specific target version of the environment that you're going to be running against in production. So you set this project up, use Visual Studio as awesomeness, yay, it's working, cool. Now I find out from my IT guy that deploys my container that he's using a certain patched version of Windows Server Core. And Microsoft have released this patched version as a Docker image as well, so I can actually use this image. Nothing stops me from changing my Docker file or my Compose file to use that infrastructure. So when I'm debugging, I'm now effectively debugging on live, which up until today, I don't care who says what, we're using VMs, it is never the case. Because there's so many variables and permutations of a VM from when it is in your data center till when it comes to the point where you're using it, there's always something that changes. Again, the argument is, well, nothing stops Microsoft from changing the base image, sure. But because it's a container, I can impose configuration inside of it. So nothing stops me, again, from taking the base image and ramping up the RAM and the hard drive of that VM. Nothing stops me from putting pieces of potential malicious items inside that container to make it behave in a poor fashion, so that when I bring my code across, I can debug against that scenario. So the more you work with it, the more permutations you can actually work with these images. Then you can start seeing, okay, how will my application behave in this way? Also, if you want load, nothing stops you from spinning up, if you've got some patience, 50 containers, Windows containers, and they're all running applications, so you can effectively debug against a loaded environment. So you can also do that. So the same way, I've only got one in my Compose file, I only have one project, one service. So a service is an application, I have one. Nothing stops me from putting another 10 there. And when I press debug, I've got 10 instances of that application. Okay. So that is why you would do it. For the run-of-the-mill stuff, I agree with you. One little project, why debug in container? That's, that is mute to be able to do that. But if you look past that and you see what the world we want to live in, then it makes sense. Cool. So that's the basics of Visual Studio with Docker. I just want to quickly spend 2 minutes to see if I can get this WCF service to work, and I can show you invoking from our web application the database. So if I go to this dude, and I'll take this. Yes. Okay, cool. I'll run. I think I'm on right. Wow. Thing froze there. There we go. Dash IP. And here. Stop it. Progress bar.
This is going to be a live video. Maybe Docker will hear it.
Sorry? Is that?
If it's a live video, maybe Docker will hear it.
I guess it is running. I have a sneaky feeling it's an IP address. Someone else's IP address.
Oh,
There we go, it's the IP address. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to invoke it straight off the bat as a container. So hello from container is just the default message that's inside the WCF. So this is the scenario that I have a legacy application, and I've containerized it, and I'm now running it. Now this makes it available to load balance it if I want to, or run it on, again, still Windows, but I can run it as an orchestrated container. So if I want to have other stuff running, then it becomes, I can move it off legacy VMs effectively. So that's now running. Let's see if the rest might get over now. So I have my WCF service. Now in Visual Studio, just to prove that it is, I tested it using WTS test client. It's not this one. So Visual Studio has its connected services. Back in the day, it used to be called web services. Now they've renamed it as connected services. Here's my connected service that I've added. All you do is say add. Where is it? add connected service, there we go. And then it'll give you the old dialog, or similar old dialog. There's the old dialog. We put in the address, it interrogates the service, which is the same that this test client was doing. And it gives you the methods, and it generates the contracts. So you can interact with it. So all I've done is, in my home page, let's do it here. I've invoked the test client. I'm not even passing anything, I'm just invoking it and returning the result, which is effectively what I did in the test. So now, if I debug this project, again, this is a normal web application. This is a normal, it's using Razor. It fires up, debugs in the container, get my IP address. One thing I did specify, which I'll point out when it runs, is the 3.3 bit.
That's the old one.
Yeah, that's the old one. I've actually specified the IP address. Running.
It was running and then it just
Died on me. Why is it dying?
Is there a way you can get onto the containers and check the logs and stuff? Is that not something you can say?
If it's running, then so you can say docker ps docker logs specified like that. And if there's a logs, then it'll output it. The WCF isn't presenting any logs, so therefore it's not surfacing it. If I go CLS again, so docker ps to get the container. We have dev1. I wonder if it's conflicting with this one. Logs. Okay. There's no logs in that one. You might be able to do this. Docker exec, execute, and we want PowerShell. PowerShell. Okay. So there's some logs that you can interrogate. So exec is execute into, but then you need a command that you can attach to on the inside. In this case, I was connecting to PowerShell. So let's do this. I'm actually inside the container store. There we go. So let's just clean up a bit, maybe things misbehaving. So we want that one. Let's kill this one. Docker kill. Okay, let's use the .rm. Cool. Docker yes. So Docker RM is just remove, and Docker kill is kill.
So, what's the difference between stop and kill?
Say again?
Stop, kill,
Same thing. It's the same command. There are some commands that came from the old CLI versions and I've just ported them across. So like Docker PS is an old one. The new one is Docker container list. It's the same. It invokes the same methods under the hood. Let's just kill the. Oh, okay. That's him. Whoa. We'll just our service. Okay, cool. Let's just run it. There we go, that's much better. There it is. Ta-da!
Sorry, what did you do?
I just cleaned up my containers. I think what happened was I left it in a weird running state earlier today when I was testing. So all I did was I killed any other container apart from the WCF service and cleaned them up. So I know that all IPs are released and stuff, and then I just debugged. So, and here's my awesome trigger, which is going to call the WCF service. And that's the result. Hello from container, which is exactly the same thing. So effectively, all I'm demonstrating here is I have a new app, it's running in a container, this container is talking to another container, which is the WCF service, and they're talking back again. So that whole handshake is effectively how legacy applications can migrate over to containers. Okay.
Cool.
And then just, let's see if we can get this going. I want to just update the compose file. So this is the concept of, I've started my project. Now my project manager says to me, hey, well, what about this WCF? But I don't want to have you run it somewhere else kind of thing. I want it to be part of the project. So if a new dev comes on board, he gets this service as well. Like, okay, cool, no problem. What we'll do is, this is the compose file that gets used, right? And then, where's my solution? Just stop the debug session. There it is. So, remember I said about this compose project and this transformation? It's like, hey, cool. So this is the transformed one, and there I specified the IP address. Now remember I had that IP address issue. That's because I'm putting on the same network with the same IP range. So all I need to do is I created this compose file just to speed up some time. Effectively, this is doing what I was doing on the command line. So I'm saying, hey, container, give it a name called WCF. This is the image itself versus the image that I used. That image reference can be one on your local repository or in your hub.docker.com.